reminder, I work for Deltec Bank and Trust. I'm head of fiduciary products and markets and also the CEO of their fund company. Today we are at the offices of Deltec Bank and Trust in the lovely Bahamas. The significance is that between those people born in 1944 and 1964, the baby boomers, and it's incredible how it's gone up. In 2019, in the Forbes article, they said there was going to be a transfer of around 30 trillion. They estimate that now that the transfer is going to be about over $60 trillion. So it's probably the most seismic transfer of wealth that the world has ever seen. And that is happening now. But a lot of things have changed with that. You've been through a pandemic, and they think that is why potentially some of that revenues have increased because people weren't spending the investments. But that's what you're seeing at the moment. This new wealth is going to it's a mixture of it going to the immediate heirs, and then there's a mixture of it going to the grandchildren, because some of the parents, those sturdy, hard World War II parents are like, no, I want you to have a job and go and work. So I think what you've got to be able to do, is a Deepak Chopra, if you want to find the one, you have to be the one. The other thing is, the new heirs are not necessarily going to use the same financial advisors as their parents. There's just a change, there's a change in philosophy there. So I think for any institution that does any kind of estate planning and investment management, to attract the heirs, you've got to be thinking like they do. So you're going to have to be digital. It's got to be ease of touch, less touch points. I think you've got to be fully automated in your structure, so less touch points to get them in, and then fully automated when you're doing it. And then to attract them, it's not conferences anymore. It's going to be webinars, it's going to be blogs. You're going to have to get on social media, so LinkedIn's particularly utilised. But to attract them, and you're going to also have to look at taking on some younger, I would call them advisors within your group. Your whole ethos as a bank, you've got to be nimble, you've got to be in the social space, and you've got to have a group of individuals within your team that can relate on an age basis as well. The digital side of things is the key side, the automation, the soft touch. For them, they're not interested in long meetings. They've got short attention spans because they just think differently, they're wired differently. And in order to reach them, you have to have that. So as I mentioned earlier, particularly for Deltec, we've been very innovative. But I think the Bahamas as a whole, because if there's no industry, there's no institution. And in my mind, with this, the Bahamas as a whole, with its digital legislation on the crypto side, that really attracted a lot of attention, and it showed it had teeth, which was excellent. But that reached out and touched all these young, vibrant minds who are the heirs. So I think it's, will they move to jurisdictions? They're probably more transient than anyone else. They will go and see what's out there and have a little bit of fun. And any financial advisor's got to align with the interests, because they are not so much interested in material goods. They're more interested in giving back. They're very philanthropic. They're very much into climate change. A lot of them will not have a car. I don't need a car. And investing into ESGs, and that, they're basically looking at the world and saying, protect my planet, I'm going to be on it for a lot longer. So if you're in the traditional space, you're going to have to sort of look, okay, what products are out there that are going to gain the interest of these individuals. I don't think it's really changed too much. Trusts have been around since the Crusades. So estate planning, but I think the way so if you set up an asset protection trust, now the parents might do this to only allow a certain amount for one generation and a certain amount for the next generation. So they can feed it in. The challenge with the structure is going to be the investment portfolio part of it, because if you're passed on to the passing investment, an inheritance onto a baby boomer who has children, so you've got the children and the grandchildren, they're almost the diametric opposites with what their investment psyches are, and that's just the difference. But within that, you can, if you've got one generation where you want to structure the trust so that certain parts of investments are for income generation, whereas you might have for the younger, the grandchildren, this is very philanthropic in nature. Now the benefit of establishing a trust for this is that it can all be set out by the grandparents. They can put in either they put it in the letter of wishes, or they can build it into the deed itself and say, for this generation, this is what we suggest, and these are the ages where they get into it. It's structured, it's there, they don't have to think about it. They can benefit during their lifetime, but you can then deal with 2 or 3 generations, because we all know once a member of the family dies and the inheritance starts, unless you've done your estate planning, it gets a bit vitriolic. It's very sad to see at times, which is where a trust structure is one of the best things for that. And Bahamas as a jurisdiction has had trusts around since the 1920s, and is probably at the cutting edge of any trust legislation in here. And that's where the BFSB, with its trust working group, has always worked hand in hand with whichever administration it was, whether it was one party or the other. They work to make sure that the trust legislation is up to date. There are foundations, so if you've got somebody from a civil law country who is, I would say, more comfortable with the foundation, because it tends to be in civil law jurisdiction, but Bahamas has a foundation in common law jurisdiction. So you've got both products there for estate planning. And then there are many other tools within there. It could be that you would establish a fund for the heirs that's attached to the trust that is purely into climate change. People will follow their money. So they're going to look at somewhere, well, why would I go and live there? Well, the weather, as you can see today, is a beautiful side of things. It's common law. People are familiar with that. Ease of getting to the Bahamas. You've got flights from Europe, you've got flights from the United States, you've got flights coming from South America. So it's easy to get here. And there's some other things in there whereby if you're going to come here and live here, you can apply for permanent residence. Residence through investment. But it's also encouraging for business, for businesses to come here and work. It's a wonderful country, and they are open for business, and they're not just open for businesses, but they're open for individuals. And what better place to be if you're just a few miles away from the United States. If you want the high life, you can go over there, or if you want something a bit faster paced. But then your advisors can be here.